What is going on, my people? Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is your main man, Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform Wealth Our Way, where our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. I welcome each and every one of you to the Financial Power Hour. We have a dynamic show tonight centered around life insurance with two just amazingly intelligent, knowledgeable, and of course beautiful. Not that that's important, but you're gonna be pleased when you're looking at the screen all night. But my face will be on here, but don't let that dissuade you from seeing the loveliness of knowledge base that's going on tonight. But before we get all that kicked off, I want to practice the attitude of gratitude and welcome each and every one of you to the show tonight. Those of you who are streaming with us live across the Wealth Our Way Facebook page and the Wealth Our Way Network YouTube page. If you have not done so, please dip on over to YouTube and subscribe to the Wealth Our Way Network page. I want to give the Wild Nation salute to all the many members of Wealth Our Way Nation who happen to watch the program in its pre-recorded state, overnight, on the weekend, wherever they can squeeze their financial literacy fix in. And then, of course, a heartfelt how are you for the good folks on the Life 101 platform who listen to the audio recording of this very here program. And with that being said, we're going to kick off tonight's show. Let it go.
I grew up in West Philly, and times was tough. Single mom, 4 kids, there was never enough. What's a youngin' to do? Join a gang or a crew, or go to school, hit the books, and find a mentor or two? God was on my side, moms was not with the games, so I studied extra hard, created a lane, read books by Warren Buffett and Benjamin Graham, spent time on Wall Street, and now I'm the man. But there's still much to do, and plenty to say, so I present the Power Hour by Wealth Our Way. Enjoy the show.
So what's up, good people? I got to share a little story before we even get into tonight's show. So, earlier this week, I'm up in New Jersey. I go back and forth between Jersey and Georgia. I've been in New York for the last few days, celebrating the 5-year anniversary of the night a crazy, mentally unstable woman decided that it was a good idea to have me in her life. And, so she's been holding tight for 5 years, and I had to celebrate her. But while we were up in New York, I had all the grandest of dreams of recording from Times Square and doing the show for Life Insurance Awareness Month. And then there was a fire in the hotel that I was in. So I'm not going to put them on blast. It wasn't a huge fire. It was something in the kitchen. But everybody had to evacuate, and I had to make a real quick pivot and get back down to Jersey. So I'm shooting on-site, on location in North Jersey and hoping that the internet holds up, because one of the main reasons I was staying at the hotel was because where I shoot at in the house in Jersey, I'm in the back room, the internet set up in the front room. So we're going to hope God's on our side tonight. But let's get right into the guest that we have tonight, because I have a feeling we're going to run right up to the last minutes of the show, just dropping knowledge and jewels for the two beautiful women that are here with us tonight. I keep being non-compliant with this day and age. When I see women who are knowledgeable and doing positive things in the community, especially in the financial space, I get excited. And when I also see that these women just make everything more energetic with their grace and their presence, I've been a fan. I looked at their social media handles and I had to have them on the show. So I'm going to start by introducing Sam, the life insurance professional. She's amazing. So what I like to do when I bring a guest on is tell you guys what made me think that this person was a good guest for you and that you would get some love and some information from. And the first thing about Sam is that she's an author, but both guests are authors. But the real thing that made me say this is a person who I want to share their knowledge with the audience is how young she was when she got into the financial serving space. Because at the end of the day, we are all servants. We are serving in some capacity. And the passion hit this young lady at a very early age of 16. So I'm going to welcome Sam, the life insurance agent, to the Financial Power Hour. What's going on, Sam?
Hey. Thank you so much for inviting me. It is an honor to be on the platform tonight.
I'm deeply moved. I'm going to give you probably about 3 or 4 minutes to tell the people all about yourself. I know I'm not going to be able to do justice to your wonderful resume, but before we do that, we're going to also bring on our other guests. So Nicole Whitfield, she's a licensed life insurance agent as well. She also is an author. She just not only gives insurance from just a broad knowledge, but we're in a day and age where you have to have a niche, a part of an audience that you can speak to in particular and say, hey, I know what you're going through. And as a Black female in a world that's dominated by males and by whites, it's great to have that perspective. So we welcome Nicole to the audience, to the Financial Power Hour as well. How you doing tonight, Nicole? You're on mute, Nicole.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a couple of minutes because, as I always tell my guests, I can sit here and read your bio. I can go over the highlights, but although we don't like to consider ourselves to be in sales because we're more so thinking of how we help people than what we sell to people. The reality is that everybody on this planet is in sales in some capacity. And as a salesperson, I always tell everybody, no one can sell me better than I can sell me. So why don't you take an opportunity? We'll start with Sam. Tell the good people of the Financial Power Hour platform a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do to make the world a better place.
Of course. So my name is Sam. I was born Shakira Moran. Made the name Sam up when I was in 3rd grade. I do a lot of things. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Also, I work full-time as a director of operations and human resource manager. But back to what Charles was saying, that I started when I was young. I've always had a spirit to give back and serve people. So at the age of 16, I was very active in my grandparents' church, in which I did, community programs. I did Saturday programs. I did a bunch of stuff. I started a mentoring program. So my passion to serve has always been there. And when I entered into the financial services, it was only right that I become a life insurance agent, because that is one thing that our community needs. To see someone that looks like them, giving them the advice, but also educating them on the importance of insurance and just overall financial literacy.
I love it. So before we bring Nicole over to talk about her wonderful resume, I will ask you one question, Sam, about when you were inspired to get into the space and focus on life insurance. Was there anything personal that you saw or experienced, heard of, or heard from friends that triggered you to say this is a space that could use your knowledge and expertise?
Most definitely. From personal, I'll be a little transparent with personal experience. I saw firsthand what happens when families did not have proper life insurance. I got my first policy when I was 25, when I was diagnosed with MS, and I was like, what's going to happen to my daughter in case I'm no longer here? So I started my life insurance journey then, and then I got to see how people didn't just know the importance of life insurance, and I saw firsthand again what it did to them. We lost a family house, things, our main breadwinner was no longer around, so things weren't able to get done. And I saw the devastation that happens when, someone passed away and you're not properly insured. So I take it as a passion to educate people on the importance, and most importantly, the potential behind life insurance. I love that. Power. Mm-hmm.
I love that. So, Miss Nicole, let's come bring you to the front and center and ask you to do the same thing. Please tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Do not feel limited. Take, your bio is magnificent. So please let everybody know what it is you do and how you do it.
Yes. So my name is Nicole. I'm a licensed insurance agent. I've been in the business now for 7 years. Backtracking even before that, I was introduced into the financial services industry when I was about 19 years old with New York Life. I went through their training program, and at the time, it just didn't really fit. Didn't succeed in passing the exam. Life took me in a different direction. I ended up going to school at the Art Institute, getting a fashion marketing degree. It's a whole nother story. And then life had a full circle moment. I ended up getting back into the financial services industry, introduced to this role as a life insurance agent with another company outside of New York Life, ended up coming back to New York Life, and was with them for 3 years. I had a great mentor at the time that she was there. However, she didn't stay. And I realized that mentorship was so important in this industry. You really need someone to kind of handhold you in those early years in the industry. Had a couple of setbacks and so forth, and ended up moving on from that position, but was open to a whole new world of um, IMOs. And for those who don't know what IMOs are, that is an insurance marketing organization. And with that, there's a whole lot of opportunity there that most insurance agents and people coming into the industry don't know, they aren't aware of. And so with that, I ended up going in that direction, ended up inheriting some agents, hold up, that's a story there, inheriting agents. And for me, I felt like that was an opportunity to write a book and guide them, to give them the ins and outs and the needs to know about the industry, um, what their options are, how they can move forward, how they can be successful, and really build their business ground up.
I love it. I don't know if you knew this from any of the information you've received or heard or seen about me, but I was at New York Life for 7 years myself.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm very familiar with Mother Nylick, as they call her. Did President's Council, Agents Advisory Council, did a lot of things over at New York Life while I was there. Went there because I wanted to continue my investing career, because I'm a Series 7, 63 and 65 guy, and learned a lot about life insurance and how it could help high net worth and everyday clients. So I think we're going to have a dynamite conversation tonight with the three of us, just talking about all things life insurance. One of the reasons the ladies are on tonight, because as I'm putting shows together and getting guests, it was no question in my mind that I was going to have Sam and Nicole on the show. But why tonight? I told you guys yesterday on 15 Minutes of Finance that this is Liam. It is Life Insurance Awareness Month. You guys know one of my favorite life insurance websites is the nonprofit lifeinsurancehappens.org, lifehappens.org website. As a financial planner, not affiliated with any particular insurance company, I don't sell insurance any longer. I wanted to have a resource for clients to look at that they knew it was just completely about them, that it had nothing to do about a company. It's company agnostic. It's tank agnostic. It's just lifehappens.org is a place where you can go learn about the different types of life insurance, get your questions together so that when you get a chance to talk to a Nicole or talk to a Sam, the time could be well spent, because you already have a list of 5 to 10 questions that you know will make the most of your time together. So we're going to start right there. What we're going to do is have Sam and Nicole answer a couple of questions that I pose about just how they feel about different areas of life insurance, where it'll be helpful. We already heard Sam talk about her personal experience with life insurance, and I keep you in prayer with MS. My stepdaughter and my very good friend Jeff, shout out to my man JD, both have MS, so it's very close, near and dear to my heart. So I know the daily ins and outs and struggles there. So with that being said, Nicole, why don't you start us off telling us about your experience of working inside the African American community in particular with life insurance, how you find people to fit, how you find you're able to educate them against some of the misnomers and false beliefs that may exist around life insurance.
I find that you have a group of people who are familiar with life insurance and how beneficial it can be. And then you have a group that you kind of got to work on their mindset a little bit in regards to that. And they just are unaware of the power in life insurance and what it can do. And, when I go through, I talk to them and I ask them to just, even with children, I've spoken at some of the schools down here in North Carolina, and, to even get the children to think for a moment. I know that we all have experienced or know someone who has lost someone, right? Lost a family member, and maybe they didn't have life insurance. That family had to uproot themselves and move to another place because they could no longer afford it. And so for me, it's painting the picture for people to understand what the benefits would be, what the what the downside is of not having it, you know, and just like I said, painting that picture of this being a financial tool that can set them up for the future. It can protect their assets. It can help them build assets and build for the future. And essentially can be something that can help them while they're living, as well as something to be passed on generationally.
I love it. I love it. Sam, why don't you echo a little bit of what Nicole said and also add your own personal take on how do you deal with the different, because I know there's some stigmas that go on in the Black community in particular about life insurance. How do you handle those conversations, objections, and so forth?
Yeah, just what Nicole said. Definitely the mindset. You have to get the mindset. For people that, even those that do know about life insurance, I don't think they really understand how big it is. Like, you know, they have, back in the day, my grandma tells me, oh, the life insurance man came around and he sold you a policy, you know, for $10,000 or so. But it's like helping them understand it's bigger than that. It's bigger than just burial costs. It's bigger than just, oh, just this is for the kids to bury me. It could be so big. So getting people's mindset, educating them, like helping them understand the different type of policies. There are a lot of misconceptions going around about life insurance. Most people try to peg it as an investment, and it's not an investment per se. You know, it's not like an investment into the stock market or so, unless you have, like, you know, the variable life insurance. But it's a vehicle, and I always tell people that it's a vehicle you use to build wealth. You know, there's many ways you could do wealth. You can build it, you can borrow it, and you can buy it. Life insurance is that way for you to buy wealth for your family. So it all starts with, like she said, getting their mindset together, and then just providing so much education, repeating twice, telling them that, you know, it's not a one size fits all. And I tell people all the time, what works for me may not work for the next person. Like, every policy, every reason behind getting a policy is so specific to your individual needs. And once we get to that part, then they start to understand, all right, so now I know that I can't get what someone else is getting. I have to get only what works best for me. So the mindset, the education, and helping them find the right policy is how I work with people.
So, you know, it's interesting when we talk about the misnomers and the misconceptions that surround life insurance. I agree. It is one of the most controversial wealth building tools in the arsenal for most people. And what I talked about this briefly on our 15 Minutes of Finance program yesterday. Life insurance serves as part of a plan. Life insurance is no good alone. Life insurance is not an independent vehicle. It's part of a wealth preservation and wealth building plan. When I sit down with a family and talk about getting them from where they are today financially to where they wish to be, I'm always aware of the fact that, you know, so the website I talked about, Life Happens, the reason it's called Life Happens is because that's the two words that comes up. Life happens. Life gets in the way of everything we're trying to plan. As the Bible says, you know, or the saying around the Bible is, man plan, God laughs. The reality is that we can set out with the best intentions on what we're going to do and which direction we're going, but life is going to show up and tell us how it's going to happen. When you have life insurance, we talk a lot in the African American community about the racial wealth gap. We're talking about how home ownership has affected the racial wealth gap, how slavery has affected the racial wealth gap and created the racial wealth gap. Now, student loans and student loan forgiveness and its effect on the racial wealth gap. Do not go to Twitter and say Tank said none of those things matter, because all of them have contributed to the racial wealth gap. But my stance and argument is that the single biggest factor that has kept us behind mainstream America is the lack of involvement in life insurance. We are running a relay race in life. From generation to generation, we're running a relay race. And unfortunately, in the African American community, when we reach out to the next person on our team and we hand the baton has debt on it. The baton costs us for a funeral. We don't have enough money to bury our loved ones, let alone handle their final expenses, make sure that their debts are taken care of, and leave the next generation better off than we were when we got to the end of our race. And that is sad. That is why life insurance is so pivotal, because any asset that you're growing, whether it's a paper asset like a stock, a bond, a mutual fund, a physical asset like a business or real estate, none of that goes anywhere without liquidity that comes from life insurance proceeds and the ability to move things along. So I want to hear both of you ladies talk a little bit about when I was at New York Life in particular, and we would sit through some of our brainstorming sessions. The life insurance is not a sexy topic. Life insurance is, if I always tell people, if you want to find a way, whether you're in the life insurance business or not, you want to find a way. You don't like being around people. You don't like talking to people. You want to be at a party and make sure people don't come stand out and hang around you. Wear a shirt that says I sell life insurance, or the minute people ask you what you do, just say I sell life insurance, and they're gone. They're on the other side of the room. Life insurance is not crack cocaine, people. It is not something that people are knocking down the door to get on their own. You have to explain and make people feel a personal connection as to why life insurance is important. So that's why I keep, bringing up, and I asked you in your intro, what your personal connection is to life insurance. So I'll share a story that my audience has heard before, but you two ladies haven't. So this will kind of spark the conversation. I never sold more life insurance policies than the month of October in, I want to say it was 2014 or 2015. I can't remember which year. And what happened was a dear friend of mine who I thought was financially secure. He had a big house. He had a business catering to celebrities. He had multiple motorcycles. How he looked successful on the outside. He passed away suddenly. In his late 50s, he had a heart attack. And I saw on Facebook his daughter posting a GoFundMe page to bury the man. And I had just hung out with him maybe a month and a half earlier. He had experienced a little personal tragedy in his business, and we were talking, and it was one of the things that made me think how financially secure he was, because he needed like $50,000 to fix some stuff in his business. I offered to help, and he told me he didn't need my help. He had a business line of credit. He was going to fix his business, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, man, my man's on top of things. And then I see he dies suddenly from a heart attack, and his daughter has to have a GoFundMe page. I was so disgusted with myself, because here I am. I'm a high net worth financial planner, high net worth investment guy. I'm only talking to millionaires, and I'm not even talking to them about life insurance to keep the lights on and to make sure they don't have to move if somebody dies. I'm talking about tax strategies and different ways to use cash value inside of life insurance to retire. And I got friends that I went to college with. I got friends that I grew up with. I got friends who could really use my help and just needed to know how to get a $250,000 term policy or a $500,000 term policy. And I was ignoring them because I was so cocky, so full of myself, so ego driven that I didn't ever want to be seen as the pushy insurance salesman, that I didn't talk to anybody about life. I was the anti-sales guy. I didn't call anybody who knew me and talk to them about buying life insurance. Well, when that happened, I spent the whole month of October calling and emailing everybody in my phone. And I had the worst sales pitch in life insurance history. I told people, I said, hey, listen, I told them the story of what happened to my man. I said, I know for a fact you got a kid. I know your kids. I said, if you don't buy any life insurance, by the time we hang up the phone, I'm deleting you off my phone and off my social media, because I believe you're a horrible person and I don't want to know you anymore. And people were like, shit. Okay, Tank, you really believe this. And I think we sold like 34 policies. The average policy might have had a face amount of $300,000 to $400,000. The average commission that I might have made that month was $200 a policy. And when I tell you, I had been making $6,000, $7,000 commissions. So I tried to explain this to everybody I talked to. This was not about Tank getting a big paycheck for selling insurance. This is about me knowing that if I have to come to your funeral, I can show up with my head held high and know that I helped your wife, your husband, your kids, your mom, and that I was part of the solution and not part of the problem. So that's my personal story about why I know life insurance is important and where I let my friend down at. I would love for you ladies to share a similar experience. Let's go with you first, Sam.
Okay, so it's going to get really emotional here. So I was like you when I became an agent. I'm like, I'm not a salesy person. Like, I'm not about the sales thing. And I never wanted to be that pushy life insurance agent. So I took more of a laid back approach. And when someone said, oh, I'll get the policy later. And, I let later happen. And what ended up happening was one of my dear cousins was murdered before we got to do the later, before the later ever came. So that happened this past May. So now what I do is it's urgent to me. It's urgent to me. It pushes me to get people to understand that my urgency is out of love. And you're right, it's not out of commission because I don't sell $1 million policies. I sell policies that people can afford. So my commission is not the biggest in the world, but I sleep better at night knowing that people within my circle and people that are within my network via social media, they're going to hear me talk about life insurance. Like, you're going to get tired of me talk about life insurance, but it's okay. If you want to block me or unfollow me, that's okay. But all I know is that I can't sleep at night knowing that I wasn't a little bit, pushy or salesy to someone that could save, their family trajectory. So that's my personal story, similar to yours, but very heartbroken.
Well, my condolences on your cousin,
Thank you.
and yeah, it's unfortunate that things, like I said, it's an emotional career path, and I
Very
think
emotional. Yeah.
anyone who sells life insurance really, when they do it from the position of love and from their heart, they realize it's a labor of love and that they are really fighting the good fight. Nicole, not to put you on the spot, but what has made you really understand and feel the life insurance business and the sense of urgency with helping people?
Well, I can't say. Well, firstly, I want to give my condolences so, on the passing of your friend and your cousin. And obviously,
I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, Nicole.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Better? Okay. So, no, I wanted to say firstly, my condolences to both of you on the loss of your friend and your cousin. I was similar to you. I had a cousin who was also tragically killed and did not have life insurance, and I tried to push him to do the same, but it just, unfortunately, it just never happened. But for me, and I also have had other family members who were tragically killed as well. Um, and the same goes, they did not have life insurance. I unfortunately, that was just kind of like their own decisions, but it's not necessarily, unfortunately, because you can only give the information, right? You can't make anyone do anything. So that isn't necessarily the driving force for me. But just generally, when I see people with GoFundMe's, it really breaks my heart, and especially within our community where we have a lot of people who are not. They're more focused on looking like they have the bag than to have these things in place. And then when something happens, then you kind of are an embarrassment. It's embarrassing to your family to have to ask for money, when these things happen. So that for that reason, and just wanted to see our people progress, and wanting to see people really set up those legacies and plan for the future and plan for generations. I mean, I think I've just always been in that mind frame of wealth building because I am also a serial entrepreneur. I've done other things and just have always had that mind frame of wanting to build wealth. So coming into this industry, it kind of was really right up my alley. But yes, just for the fact of wanting to see our people, progress and pass on wealth and get ahead and close up this racial wealth gap.
So what we're gonna do to help the audience. We have a strong Wild Nation contingent that shows up every week, every other week for the Financial Power Hour, every week for 15 minutes of finance to make sure that they get some morsels that can help them individually. So right now, first and foremost, studio audience, by all means, shoot your questions into the chat so the ladies and I can have a chance to address them. But before we get any questions, I'm going to kind of just lob some points up that the ladies can attack. First and foremost, what are your thoughts on the difference between term insurance and permanent insurance? So first of all, if you could explain the difference to the audience from your own slants, because yes, there is a textbook answer for what term insurance is and a textbook answer for what permanent insurance is, but I love different financial minds because when you think about financial planning, I believe it's more art than science, and people have their own secret sauce for how they position products in people's financial lives. So why don't you ladies both take an opportunity to talk about your feelings on the difference between term and permanent insurance and where it may fit into a family's financial plan. I let Sam go first last time, so I'm gonna let Nicole go first this time.
Sure. So I liken term insurance versus permanent to renting versus owning, right? So when you rent a home. Let's say you're renting a home and you live in that home, you pay your rent, and as long as you pay your rent, you can stay in that home, but you do not own the home. The home essentially belongs to someone else, right? And so likewise with a term insurance policy, you have your term span of time that you are utilizing that life insurance, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And then once that time span is up, it's over, right? You do not have life insurance anymore. Or if you keep that policy, well, the cost of insurance goes up tremendously. But generally, people do not continue on with the term insurance policy unless they convert it into a permanent life insurance. So permanent life insurance, whole life, whatever type of life insurance policy that you have that is a permanent life insurance policy, I look at that as a home that builds equity, right? You're paying on your policy, and there is a portion of the premium that goes towards the cost of insurance, cost of or cash value in the policy. We'll look at that as equity that you can borrow from. And so as long as you're paying your policy premiums, the policy will stay in force and you'll have that for life. You'll own that policy.
I love it. Sam, why don't you jump in here and give your slant on the same question?
Yeah. So we're two of a kind, because that's exactly how I break it down to clients. So do you want me to go through like who is it for, who is it
Yeah,
not?
I mean, maybe talk about, like, give an example of whether it's a 25-year-old or a 40-year-old, what stage in life you're sitting across the table from someone, and when you think term is appropriate, when you think permanent is more appropriate.
So yeah, I'm a big advocate for permanent for every single person. As young as 14 days old, you should get your policy and you should have the whole life, because the earlier you get it, the less it becomes of a cost for you. The more of a asset it becomes, and less of that liability mindset thinking that it is. So for people who have like small children, I definitely recommend them to have both, because when you think about it, when you get older and you get the burial insurance or you get the guarantee, it's essential a whole life insurance. It's just, why not get it earlier so that you're earning some cash value on it? So term is ideal for people who have high debts. Like if you have a mortgage, if you have small children, you would definitely get a term policy in addition to the whole life, being that in case you are no longer around, that your family will be set. You won't lose the house. They don't have to worry about how they're going to pay for education. Your kids, your family will have a means to keep continuing. I'm an advocate for whole life, just because you don't know when you're going to pass away. You don't know if you're going to pass away in 10 years, 20 years. Your whole life, the whole life policy covers you till you're 121 years old. And if you customize it, it becomes more affordable. If you're not paying it, I think people get in their mind, I'm going to be paying for insurance for my entire life. But there are carriers that allow you to customize your policy, and that you could pay it off in 10 years, you could pay it off in 20 years, you could have it paid off and it could still be growing the death benefit, and the cash value could still be growing. So term definitely for parents of small children, people who have high debt, mortgages and such, but whole life for every single person, whole life for everyone. You don't have to go get $1 million whole life policy, as long as you have enough that will cover the burial costs, just so that you're covered for your entire life.
Well, I appreciate that. Love that answer. So I'm going to throw my 2 cents into the ring as well. As a person who got his start as a high net worth investment advisor, I started at a firm 25 years ago, Smith Barney. The account minimums 25 years ago were $250,000. I grew up on food stamps. I didn't know where the hell I was going to get clients from who had $250,000 to invest. But fortunately, by the grace of God, my best friend got me, he was my first client. He's a professional athlete. I got some other athlete clients, and then I was blessed to work with some endowments, and I grew a practice. I never really focused on life insurance early on. When I started the second iteration of my financial services career for individuals was at New York Life in 2013. And I got introduced to the wonders that life insurance could do for high net worth individuals, first from a tax standpoint, but then even to Sam's point, juvenile policies. So I am a staunch supporter of permanent insurance for juveniles, mainly whole life. And I take it even a step further. I like what is called as custom whole life or limited pay policies. So the one reason why I think life insurance makes people very uncomfortable is it's not a simple product. It can be simple, but it has a lot of moving parts. And as a result, when things get confusing because it's not so straightforward, what ends up happening is you have some very unscrupulous people who work in financial services. They're more interested in the money that they can make than the money they can make for you. And they'll sell you products that aren't necessarily a perfect fit for your situation. So I am not in any way, shape, or form disagreeing with Nicole or Sam, but I'm going to give a little different slant with a little tank spin on my permanent to term situation. One of the things that always seems to make me want to wring someone's neck is when I do a life insurance review on a younger professional family, 35 and under, I'd say younger, and I see that they have permanent insurance and no term insurance. You know, term insurance is the basis. Sam touched on it so wonderfully. When you have high debts. So there are a few ways to look at a high debt. Mortgages are high debts. But I argue that you don't have to have a house to have high debts. What high debts means to me is, are there people who are counting on your income to keep coming through the door? And if they are, that income is a liability to that household. If you and your wife or you and your husband make a combined $80,000, $120,000, $250,000, and you have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, that money is a liability. They need to see that money come in from now until they're done with college. So you have an obligation, so to speak, to insure to your people that money will keep coming in. Now, without going into a deep dive on premiums and the cost, permanent insurance costs more. And I don't even like to use the term cost, but I don't have enough time in this segment to differentiate between cost as a price or cost as value. So we won't really get into that today, but the premiums are higher on permanent insurance than they are on term insurance, all things equal. With that being said, you can normally afford much more term coverage than you can permanent coverage, all things being equal. With that being said, if I walk into someone's house and I see that they had a budget that would have allowed them to spend $200 a month for insurance for their life, and someone sold them a $75,000 whole life policy that costs that entire $200, that person needs to be beaten. That person needs to be taken out back, shot, and their family needs to be billed for the price of a bullet, because you are doing a great disservice to the 6 and the 2-year-old who need their mom and dad's income, and all you set them up with is $75,000 of income replacement, when that $200 could have bought a $2 million term insurance policy. So we have to be careful. We have to educate ourselves. We have to be financially literate. We have to see who we're taking our advice from, which is why I started the program talking about lifehappens.org. There are all types of human life and value calculators on there that will tell you how much insurance you need. And if you don't know, you want to kind of ask someone who, I always tell people, I want information from someone who will not financially benefit from the implementation of the information I'm getting from them. I don't like asking mechanics how much it costs to fix my car. I'm going to go to the mechanic to get my car fixed, but I'd like to know from someone who's not going to say, oh, you know what, I walk in needing a spark plug, but let me tell this dude he needs a whole engine because he don't know the difference and I can get $5,000 more out of him. So unfortunately, in the world that we live in, we can't trust everybody and we have to do our research. But when you're looking to get educated on the differences on something as simple as permanent versus term insurance, there's a lot of knowledge out here for you to learn. But before we go into the next topic on this, I want to address Kalima's question. It's directed to you ladies. Do either of you ladies offer mentoring opportunities to other licensed agents? And I believe that it was covered in the bio, but I want you guys to address Ms. Kalima, Wild Nation member, directly. So Sam, if you could start with that.
No, I don't offer mentoring. Nicole, you do though, correct?
I do. I offer it with my agents, my current agents, but it is something that I am opening up to outside people. So if you want to just follow me on Instagram, follow me on social media, that information will be coming out soon. I can offer.
So we're having a little trouble hearing Nicole. She's going in and out, but her IG and TikTok are going across the bottom of her screen. And if you follow her on either of those, Kalima, she can address you individually on giving some mentorship. So the other thing that I wanted to say before we move into the next question, going back to touching on permanent insurance, people ask me all the time, why am I such a staunch advocate for juvenile life insurance policies? I'll say this, I'm not a fan of juvenile term insurance. I'm a fan of juvenile permanent insurance. The reason being, and I touched on this yesterday on 15 Minutes of Finance, life insurance is what I call a discriminatory product. It discriminates against the elderly. It discriminates against the unhealthy. And so the older you get and the less healthy you are, the more you are going to pay for life insurance. Under normal circumstances, there is no one more healthy or younger than a baby. So you can buy permanent life insurance. I've seen policies set up for $50 a month, $25 a month for a whole life insurance where the face amount is $25,000, $50,000, sometimes $100,000. And here's the beauty of this. Now we go back to the planning part of this. Let's say you put $50 a month away for your newborn child, and it doesn't have to be your $50. You got a mom, so this is grandbaby. Stop letting people buy your kids useless gifts at Christmas and birthday and tell them they have a life insurance policy and you need $10 to go toward the premium, $20 to go toward the premium. You pay into this policy, you can get a 15-year custom whole life or an 18-year, 20-year. Pay into this policy until this child goes off to school or becomes a little budding entrepreneur. And they will not only have a life insurance policy that has a face amount of 50, 100, 150,000, they will have cash value in this policy that can help them. Now, here's where I'm going to differ from the talking heads on the internet who are always trying to tell everybody they can be rich tomorrow. Our budgets dictate how successful these plans will be and won't be. If you're putting $50 a month into something, no, your child cannot pay for college with this thing when they turn 18. However, $50 a month for 18 years may make it so that they get their books every semester with no problem. So because you see I'm a big guy, I don't have a lot of life insurance on me personally. I had a term policy that went 10 years. When the 10-year term was up, the price skyrocketed. At the same time, I weighed so much that I couldn't get underwritten for a new policy. So almost all of my coverage is accidental death and dismemberment, which doesn't make me feel comfortable because I have a high net worth and I would love to have the insurance that matches it up. But I do put my money where my mouth is because each of my 6 children have multiple juvenile policies. And, I'm sure they're watching. My ex-wife and current wife, I have insurance on both of them. Anybody who is insurable, I have insurance on them. If I'm going to have to incur some type of financial obligation, if they can't continue on in life, I have insurance on them. I have insurance on every business partner that I do business with. I'm in business with a cannabis company, a real estate company, cryptocurrency. We have buy-sell agreements and key man policies on everybody because you're not going to have my money not covered. I believe in insurance in that regard. Going back to the juvenile policies and the importance of it, I say that I know for a fact my grandchildren who don't exist yet, none of my kids have had kids, my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren are going to be millionaires because of the life insurance that I have on my children. Each of my children have over $750,000 of permanent insurance on them. And when I tell you, I do pay a pretty high amount of premiums combined every month, not as a percentage of my income, but just as a raw number. But when I tell you, you would be floored by how much I was able to get these policies for at the time I bought them, when these kids were 6, 7, 9 years old. They were not expensive at all. I'm talking, less than my car notes are these coverages. And I know for a fact my kids can take the cash value out the policies. I've taken the cash values out the policies because I own the policy. When I want to take 20, 30, 40 grand out because I see an investment opportunity and I don't feel like going to a bank and getting my credit pulled and all of that, I can call New York Life and the other companies that I have policies with and get an ACH deposit in my account within 3 days for 30, 40, 50 grand because I'm putting money into them for that very purpose. So what I want to touch on next is I want each of you ladies to talk about what you think a young family starting out should look for in a life insurance professional. Let's let you start first, Sam.
All right. So they should definitely look to someone that is patient. They should look for someone that is knowledgeable and provides education. That should be the first thing. Someone that doesn't just skip through things, or you notice that some people try to speed things up to confuse you a little bit. That agent should be going through every single detail, answering every question, asking you questions as to what's your plans for the life insurance policy? Like, what do you see? What would you want for your children? Just taking their time and going through it. And I feel oftentimes, and I worked, when I first started off, I was with a firm that I felt the agent that was above me, that was working with me, just wanted to sell a policy. Not going through every single nook and cranny of the budget, finding out what their goals are, what they are, explaining to them how important life insurance is. Like I said earlier, it's not a one size fits all. Making sure that family knows that this policy is specific to what they need and what they're looking for. So your agent should definitely be knowledgeable, be patient, answering questions as they come and provide value. And the company they work for should be one of the companies that have a high Moody rating. The company has been in business for a while, because you don't want to get into a company that hasn't been around for a long time, because you want to see longevity with them paying out the premiums when it's time to pay it out. So that's what
I love that. Nicole, you want to echo or shoot your own shot at that question?
I totally agree with Sam. You definitely want to have someone who is knowledgeable, someone who's patient, someone who can answer all of your questions. Even as agents and advisors, there are going to be times that your agent may not have the answer for you right away, but if that person can get back to you with the correct information, then I think that counts for something. Definitely want to go through a financial needs analysis, go through your budget, your entire budget. If that person just jumps out and gives you a number and say, hey, just do this, I would be a little leery, ask questions, definitely come ready and prepared, doing your own research so that you can make an educated decision going forward with that person. Definitely want to make sure that they are with a reputable company, as Sam said, a company that has good ratings. All of those things are very important.
I love it. Let me also say, I think I don't do enough of a good job with telling the audience why insurance is something that I promote in the first place. So let me kind of go all the way back before we even start talking about insurance to what the purpose of insurance is. Insurance is basically a risk transferring tool. So we all have risks in life. If we're talking about life insurance, the risk is you're not going to be able to fulfill the promises and dreams that your loved ones have had from you, where you told them, hey, little girl, little boy, I made you. I'm going to get you to college. I'm going to get you to 18. I'm going to get you to 25. Dad's always going to be here. Mom's always going to be here. The school you go to, you'll always be able to afford it. The house you live in, you'll always be able to live there. Those are the promises that we make as parents Some of us take care of our parents, of our siblings. There are people who depend on our income outside of us. If we didn't have anybody who depended on our income outside of us, life insurance may not be something that we would ever talk about. There are still some advantages to life insurance as I talk about high net worth individuals and tax strategies. But for the most part, we wouldn't be concerned about death benefits and face amounts if we didn't have someone who was affected by our absence or the absence of our finances. What I always told people when I sold life insurance is I cannot replace the comfort, the love, the experience, the talks, the hugs that this person provides for their family, but I can replace their money. And at the end of the day, when we're done crying and dabbing our eyes at the funeral, somebody's mortgage needs to be paid. Somebody's car note needs to be paid. The kids need to eat tonight. And we got to get back to the business of life for who it's left behind. And life insurance transfers this risk from you to an insurance company. And I think it's important to understand that simple relationship when you hear Nicole and Sam both say that it's important that the company is reputable, because this company is keeping the promise to you. The agent isn't keeping the promise to you, because I've seen life insurance agents come and go into business. I came and went. I'm doing financial planning now. I'm not at New York Life anymore. I sold a lot of insurance policies at New York Life, and when they call to get those policies serviced, they're not talking to Tank anymore. But New York Life is still there. And although, and this is one of the things I love about insurance, although insurance companies are backed by a state-driven insurance commission, so even the worst rated insurance company in the world, if you have a life insurance policy from them, your policy is still guaranteed. Because even if that company goes out of business, every company that does business in a particular state, and almost every company is licensed in every state, they pay into a kitty and have an insurance for themselves that say, if other companies go under, we'll have their back. We'll buy their policies. They go into survivorship, and they have to get their policies conveyed. That is why when you see a life insurance policy, it's the only thing in financial services that is legally allowed to say guaranteed, because you're going to get your money. Now, don't get it wrong. When I worked for New York Life, which was one of the highest rated companies, I went in everybody's living room and told them ratings are important. Ratings matter. Be with the best rated company, because I was with the best rated company. But I do want to be clear. If you're with Joe's Insurance Company and they're F rated, you pay your premiums and you die, somebody's getting a check, because everybody has to have Joe's Insurance Company's back, or insurance doesn't work at all. Now, what I will say, even though what I just said is gospel and true, what I will say, there is a difference between dealing with Joe's Insurance and dealing with the top rated companies. I've watched the top rated companies do things for their clients that Joe's won't do. I've seen people fail to make a payment, lapse their policy. Something tragic happened. They had a very good reason for why it lapsed. And an insurance company who has no obligation to honor paying a death benefit because the policy lapsed, they would research what happened, they would verify, and then they paid the death claim, where most companies would find every reason to not pay it. I've also seen situations where children were left. Oh, here's a gem for everybody who stuck around for tonight's program, for anybody who watches this in the future. People, stop putting your underage children as beneficiaries of your life insurance policies. It is against the law. So hear me out. It's against the law for a person under the age of 18 to be in a contractual relationship with anybody. As a result, even so, when you see a child actor, the child actor is not in a contractual obligation with the studio. Their guardian is in the contractual obligation, and they make the decisions for the child actor. If you put little Johnny or little Jill on the life insurance policy and you die, and Jill is 9 years old, Jill is not getting a check. So be clear, insurance companies have the right to hold the money until she's 18. In most cases, they will let little Jill get her guardian, and the guardian will apply for the benefits, but it's a cumbersome process. Stop putting your kid on life insurance policies. Trusts, guardians, there's all different types of ways to make it better, but don't put the kids on there because you're going to be jammed up. one other gem that I'll put out there for you: company sponsored life insurance. Oh, I don't need life insurance from an agent. I got it at my job. No, you don't. Job insurance sucks. I'm just going to be very clear to you. First and foremost, if you don't have the job, you don't have the insurance. And tell me, go do a survey of your closest 20 friends. I don't care how old you are. Tell me who's at the same job they were when they started, or 7 years ago, 10 years ago. Make sure you have a privately owned, privately held life insurance policy. So we got 5 minutes left. I want to let each of you ladies close out. I tell you, the time goes quick when we're here. I'm going to start with Nicole. Nicole, give me 90 seconds of what you felt you got out of today and what you want to leave the people with.
Today was awesome. You know what? I just want to leave this with the people. You just mentioned about that company-sponsored life insurance. And I want to tell you about a quick story about a teacher from Texas. I'll put this story on my Instagram page. There was a tenured teacher out of Texas, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. He had been working for the school district for however long, and he was diagnosed. His wife went to the Human Resources and Benefits Department to make sure that everything was in place, that his benefits were covered. They told him yes. Well, they ended up changing the insurance company that they worked with. And so the man went back to school. He started the school year, and unfortunately couldn't make it through after having chemotherapy treatment, ended up dying. Well, he went back to school, but then he left. And there was a stipulation in the life insurance contract that said that he had to be in school teaching on a certain day. So that contract was not paid out. So make sure you have your own individual life insurance policy. That is extremely important. I want to leave that with people because you're so right. People tend to believe that just because they have life insurance through their employer that they are covered, and that is not the case. Sometimes these companies even take a long time to pay out. They won't pay out immediately. So very important, have your own individual plan. Do not rely on employer-based insurance plans.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Sam, what are your closing parting shots?
My closing point is life insurance is just the beginning. Most people get life insurance and they think that's it. Life insurance is the beginning, but make sure you go a little further into your estate planning. Make sure you have your will in place. Make sure you have your power of attorney, your healthcare proxy, because life insurance, again, is just the beginning of it. It's a whole big, and Charles knows, there's a whole big world out there when it comes to making sure everybody is secured and your foundation is solid.
Love it. In fact, you just set me up for a shameless plug. Everybody in the comments, make sure you look up and understand what the Wild Wealth Jumpstart is. We are making sure we are on a mission at Wealth Our Way to make sure everybody has their retirement taken care of, their life insurance taken care of, and their estate planning documents. So we offer the Wild Wealth Jumpstart. The Wild Wealth Jumpstart gives you a simple will. It gives you a durable power of attorney. It gives you a healthcare proxy, a retirement review, and a life insurance review. And once you have those reviews, we point you in the right directions, professionals like Sam and Nicole, to buy insurance from, because we don't sell any insurance at Wealth Our Way. And if, most of the time after the retirement review, we'll either help you with your employer-sponsored plan or on a no-load site like Schwab or Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, or the like. So make sure you are looking into the Wild Wealth Jumpstart. Ladies, you just... I feel like it's Valentine's Day, even though it's September. I got a crush on both of you. I thank you so much for being here. So much knowledge, so much intelligence, so much wisdom. Shout out to the audience for sticking around for the hour. And with that, we're going to close out right here. Take us away, producer.